Hey folks, Alan Manick, the Hot Rod Hippie here. This week's video we're going to be comparing compact body hammers from the folks at Martin Tools and Snap-on. So let's check it out. So in this week's video I'm going to be taking a look at a couple of compact body hammers and comparing them to one another. I'm going to quickly explain why I think a compact body hammer is a great thing to have in your tool set. Then I'm going to compare specifications of the two hammers. Then I'm going to let you know what I think of them so you can make a decision for yourself. So compact body hammer is this small, slim, low profile design hammer that gets into tighter areas. This can be exceptionally useful when you're working on, say, a really rounded out body where you got to get into a fender area, and as you're trying to strike, maybe a pick on the backside of your hammer might hit the sail panel on the side of a car, might hit a fender, a hood side, something like that. I've also had use of these in things like trans tunnel areas, get up underneath of a dashboard and smack on that trans tunnel, but I might not be able to do that with a pick sticking off the backside of my hammer. Now, something that a lot of folks do when it comes to this style of compact body hammer is they'll take a normal pick hammer and they'll just cut the pick off the backside of the hammer. Now, while obviously cutting the pick off the backside of a regular body hammer will create a much more compact hammer, it's not nearly as compact as one of the purpose-made hammers. The other thing that you're missing from the equation when you do that is you're missing actually some head weight. These compact hammers are designed specifically to be compact hammers. Part of that is they don't have the additional shaft length between the head and the handle itself, and they also have additional material around the handle. The reason I mention that is if you took this regular body pick hammer, you knocked that pick off the backside of it, you just removed a fair amount of weight off the head of this hammer. Say the Snap-on BF612, the most common hammer I use for a flat-faced body hammer. The head on this hammer weighs about 12.5 ounces by Snap-on specifications. Meanwhile, this compact hammer from the folks at Martin Tools weighs just about 10 ounces. If I was to go ahead and cut the pick off the backside of this hammerhead, I would easily lose more than the 2-ounce difference between these two hammers. Meaning that this hammer would be a more compact design, sure, but it would weigh less than this Martin Tools hammer. So now I can fit it into tighter spots, but I can't strike with the same force that I can with this compact body hammer that's specifically designed for the purpose. I did measure. If I was going to go ahead and cut the pick off the backside of this hammer, from the back of the hammerhead to the front face of the hammer would still be 2.9 inches long. The compact designed compact body hammer measures from the face of it to the backside of the hammerhead 1.9 inches long. That means that there's an additional inch between these two, that even if I was to cut this down and make it a compact hammer, it still wouldn't be nearly as compact as the purpose designed hammer. There is a minor flaw to those compact design hammers, and that's quite simply knuckle clearance. Because these compact design hammers do not have that additional head length in there, your knuckles don't have a lot of clearance between the handle and whatever material is striking. That's because these are kind of intended to be used on more shapely components, like I said, getting into tighter areas, say like a 32 Ford front fender between the hood side and the fender itself, getting in there. So with that curvy panel, your hand doesn't need the clearance. But if you're using this on a fairly flat surface, you may need to watch out for smacking your knuckles on a fairly flat surface. So now let's go ahead and compare these two hammers to each other. I've got the Martin Tools 167G body hammer here and the Snap-on BF612 hammer here. Let's go ahead and list the things that are the same between these two hammers, and then I'll tell you the things that are different between them. Both of these have 12-inch hickory wooden handles on them. They are both a flat-faced body hammer. Flat-faced body hammer means that they have a 24-inch radius to the face of them. The reason it's a 24-inch radius is because if it was perfectly true flat, it would only take a minor imperfection in your swing to have you digging into the side of that hammer. You need to have a little bit of radius for a little bit of forgiveness as you strike into that material. They are both from the ground up compact body hammers. They are designed to be compact body hammers, not modified from a different design. They are both made in the USA and both carry a lifetime warranty. Now that we talked about what's the same between these two hammers, let's talk about what's different. I said that they both have 12-inch hickory handles, and that is true. However, the Martin Tools hammer is available with a fiberglass handle if you wanted to have that. I prefer wood handles, but you could have the fiberglass handle version if you wanted. Snap-on does not have that option. The next difference is the head diameter. The Martin Tools hammer has a 1 9/16 head on it, whereas the Snap-on one is a little bit smaller than a 1.5-inch hammer. Another difference is that they do both have the 12-inch hickory handles, but they are a different design. Clearly a different color design, but the Snap-on has this kind of boxy handle design to it, this weirdly shaped octagon, where the Martin Tools is a much more rounded, smooth, and even more polished finish on it. Now, that is a preference thing for a lot of folks. A lot of people do find that they like the Snap-on handle because when you grip it, it doesn't have a tendency to kind of twist in your hand like the Martin Tools kind of can. Because it's rounded, there's not a lot to keep it from twisting in your hand when you're striking on material, whereas the Snap-on one with its boxy design kind of gives you a little bit better grip for not having it twist if you strike a little odd with it. The Martin Tools hammer measures 1.83 inches from the backside of the head to the face of it, whereas the Snap-on hammer measures 1.91 inches. Now we come to what I think is probably personal opinion, the most important difference between the two of these. That is the weight of the two hammers. The Martin Tools hammer weighs about 10 ounces for a head weight, as I mentioned earlier. The Snap-on one, however, weighs about 8 ounces. That's 2 ounces lighter than the Martin Tools one and a whole 4.5 ounces lighter than the regular pick hammer that I was showing you before. And now the last difference between the two of these, and the place where they absolutely are the most different, is the price. I picked up the Martin Tools hammer on Amazon for $35.95 with free shipping. I was able to find it a little bit cheaper some other places, however I had to pay for shipping there, so it worked out to be about the same as getting it from Amazon. The Snap-on hammer, however, comes in a little over $78. That means it is more than twice the price of the Martin Tools hammer. So that's a really good point to go ahead and jump right into what do I think of these two hammers compared to each other. So like I mentioned, what I think is probably the most important difference is the weight of these two hammers. I've had the Snap-on hammer for a little over a year now, and I've found it very useful in a lot of situations to get into tighter areas, to fit into places that I couldn't fit with a regular body hammer. I love having this in my arsenal. I've only had the Martin Tools hammer for about a week now, giving it a fair shot, trying into different projects to compare it to the Snap-on one. And I have to say, I have quickly fallen in love with that additional 2 ounces of the Martin Tools hammer. That weight is instantly noticeable as soon as I start trying to flatten a weld, knock down dents. This thing has been much, much more useful to me than the Snap-on one. I switched back and forth between these two hammers as I was working on projects, and I most certainly noticed the additional weight of the Martin Tools hammer over the Snap-on one. It may only be 2 ounces, but when you're swinging it, you've got that leverage going on it, it really makes a difference. Especially when I'm flattening out welds. The Snap-on hammer compared to its bigger brother, the regular pick hammer, I find that when I'm flattening a weld out with this thing, it just doesn't have quite the force, quite the strength that I wish it did. However, the Martin Tools one being only 2 ounces lighter than that regular pick hammer, well, I really like this. I find that I'm not really missing that 2 ounces like the 4 ounces that I have with the Snap-on hammer. Now, there is an argument to be made that the lighter weight of the Snap-on hammer is actually a positive thing. If you're using these on lighter materials like aluminum, brass, copper, something like that, then you might actually find you have just a slight bit more control with the Snap-on hammer because of that weight difference. And that is one of the places they kind of market these, is you could use these on aluminum. Being as they are slightly lighter body hammers, they are a little bit more controllable. So now in the end, when I compare these two hammers to each other, spec for spec, putting them up against each other, personally, I'm going with the Martin Tools hammer. The additional weight is the biggest thing to me. I really find that that is just so much more usable to me to have that slightly heavier weight closer to a regular body hammer and still have the compact design. Being as it's less than half the price of the Snap-on hammer, it's a win-win for me. In the end, it's going to have to be what works best for you. Whether you want to cut down one of the regular body hammers you have. Maybe you can pick up a used one at a yard sale, a swap meet, and then you really feel pretty good about sacrificing it to be cut down versus taking a $90 hammer and cutting it down yourself. Whether you want the lighter weight hammer or you want the slightly heftier weight hammer that costs a little less, it's going to have to be up to you what fits your needs best. I clearly have all of these hammers and I find uses for all of them. However, if I had to pick one of these as a compact hammer, I'm going to go with the Martin Tools hammer. As always, you can find links in the description down below to these hammers so you can pick them up if you want to. Go ahead and drop the video a like if you found it interesting. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you have a hammer you've sacrificed, you've cut up and made into a compact body hammer? Do you have one of the purpose designed ones? What do you think about these options that I've presented to you here? Go ahead and subscribe to the channel for more content like this every week. Thanks for coming around, folks.